Ever since Donald Trump's loss to Joe Biden, Fox News has actually been devoting a lot of its airtime to the culture war. I mean, that's essentially because of the whole point that covering Joe Biden's kind of boring. Nobody's really interested in any of the conspiracy theories or whatever that people are bringing up about Joe Biden. Like, I haven't heard a mention of Hunter Biden in a while. So what is Fox News doing? Well, they're devoting segments to Dr. Seuss and WFP. And so that's what's going on. So they've been covering the culture wars, the cancel culture, quite some time. And so what they're talking about is Dr. Seuss. Oh my God, they're coming for Dr. Seuss. Well, no, that didn't actually. Who's they, for one? The woke mobs. It's the woke mobs that went for Dr. Seuss. No, in reality, there was no woke mob. The publisher decided, of their own volition, to stop publishing certain books that nobody buys, nobody really heard of, and who even Dr. Seuss was kind of ashamed of because of that insensitive imagery, racist imagery inside of their books. And so, yeah, they decided we're not going to take them off the shelves, but we're just going to stop publishing them because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money, and it looks bad on us. So we're not going to do that anymore. But okay. So there's that. But what about Mr. Potato Head? You got something there, right? Mr. Potato Head, which has always been, it's always had male and female parts and that were interchangeable, and it's always been a genderless potato toy that never really caused any sort of controversy. And so they just wanted to try to be a little bit more inclusive by dropping the Mr. from the entire brand, even though there still is a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. So, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. What about Pepe Le Pew? Anybody ever watch Pepe Le Pew? I mean, when you're a kid, you don't really notice it, but later on coming in, it's like, hey, this guy's kind of handsy. Little bit of a rapey vibe there, but okay. So again, conservatives look at this and they're like, cancel culture, out of control. How dare they get rid of a kind of rapey cartoon skunk? Now, so out of control, by the way, that Fox News is trying to call in the cavalry. Generation X. Gen X. Okay. So this is according to HuffPost. Over the weekend, author Matthew Hennessey had recently wrote a column in the New York Post calling on Generation X to fight the cancel cultures. Now, Senator Ted Cruz, of course, picked this up. He decided to share a link to the story. And as a result, because all of this happens in a bit of a chain, right? So you get some, well, I'm not saying New York Post is obscure, but sometimes, they'll pick up random obscure posts from random obscure conservative outlets. One politician will pick it up, they'll share it. Fox News will then pick it up and also share it. And so that's kind of how it works, right? They kind of amplify each other in the sphere, in the conservative sphere. So that's what happened in this case. And so as a result, Fox News ran a story, and I can't show you because they decided to use music that would that's copyright. You know how YouTube laws are. And so let me just tell you what it said. This came from Fox News correspondent Jillian Turner. And she said, cancel culture spreading like wildfire. There's a call for Generation X to lead the charge to save America from the social media mob. Can they do it? The short answer is no. The longer answer is they don't actually care about this, that the cancel culture. They're not interested in fighting this ridiculous cancel culture fight, right? Again, Fox News. Okay, so the Gen X literally grew up in the generation, under the Fox News demographic that tried to cancel everything that Generation X liked. Okay, now those of you remember the 70s and 80s. Well, I don't necessarily remember the 70s, but I do remember some of the 80s. I'm an older millennial. But basically, if you look back in that time with popular culture, you had a lot of adults who are now of the Fox News viewing age, the boomers, that basically attempted to restrict or ban everything from rap music, heavy metal to video games later on, and even Dungeons and Dragons. So, these people, the ones who tried to cancel all that stuff for Gen X, are now the ones crying about cancel culture. I mean, for God's sake, they tried, even more recent examples, they tried to ban Harry Potter for witchcraft. And now those same people, by the way, are defending J.K. Rowling for being a gigantic TERF. This is wild. Absolutely wild. Again, I mentioned I'm an older millennial, but I do remember when I was growing up, when the religious right were all about trying to cancel video games, Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, and, rock music, devil music. This is devil music. And don't even get me started on canceling the Dixie Chicks for speaking out against the Iraq War and the Bush administration. Dixie Chicks are, by the way, now just known as the Chicks. They got canceled hard by the right wing. And of course, you also had the cancellation, and this is more my time, back in the early 2000s. They canceled French fries. They called them freedom fries and freedom toast. All right. And by the way, even the person who came up with this, Walter B. Jones, later on in 2005, was like, yeah, that was cringe. Cringe. He said in a 2005 interview, his opinion on the freedom fries thing, Jones responded, quote, "I wish it had never happened." But please, tell me how cancel culture is out of control and it's the left woke mobs that are doing it. Oh, they came for Doom, MTV, anime, comics. You're absolutely correct. The religious right knows cancel culture because they perfected it. It's amazing. It really is amazing. Again, but tell me about how cancel culture has taken over America. Come on. But look, when it comes to the companies, and this is a big thing on the right now, is look at all these woke companies. That's what they're doing. They're just doing it to be woke. Go woke, go broke. Okay, but here's the thing: these companies, we live in the system called capitalism. I don't know if you know that, and I'm sure you do. And so capitalism, part of that point of being a corporation, is wanting to make money. And so companies will take a look at the culture trends and they'll go, hey, you know what? Maybe my logo's a bit outdated, or maybe this is not doing so well in these particular markets. Why don't we change things up? Why don't we try to make things more inclusive? Turns out trans people have money, and we want a piece of that. Gay people have money. We want a piece of that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make these decisions based on what we think is going to go better for our brand, and appealing to gay people or trans people, black people. Turns out that actually will help us in our bottom line. They don't really mean it. I mean, yes, they're doing the right thing, but understand that what they're doing it for is just to get money. and so those like, let me give you an example. Aunt Jemima, right? Uncle Ben's. So they look back and they think, the history of Aunt Jemima. And I actually I did a video on that a while back, on how that was basically started from a caricature. And the person who was, Aunt Jemima was playing a literal character. And so you get into the past and look at how that came about. You think, maybe that's not such good luck. Maybe I should go back and, do something like maybe you do a little rebranding, which is totally fine when it comes to companies. They rebrand all the time in order to try to, fit more cultural trends and to ultimately do better in capitalism. And so that's what they're doing. They made those decisions based on a marketing standpoint. But here's the thing: there's nothing conservatives don't love more than using those things as an example of how they're the victims in this situation because their syrup has a different name. The syrup, different name. They're triggered by syrup. I don't understand. But there's nothing they love more than constructing that narrative, than, of course, actually canceling people. Yeah. Now, as far as Gen X, though, a lot of Gen Xers, they're not buying this. They're not interested at all in this. So let me give you some of the responses here on social media. One person says, Gen X is trending because Fox News thinks we're the ones who can kill cancel culture. Laughs in 2 Live Crew, NWA, and Sinead O'Connor. That is, of course, all people that were canceled by the right. Yeah. Another person says, the Gen X discourse on here is so lame. We do not want to be talked about. I hate myself for even writing this tweet. Please leave us alone. Noted. I mean, the whole situation is Gen X is looking at the boomers versus the millennials, and millennials versus, Gen Z about hair parts or whatever. And they're looking at that and they're like, nah, no, we don't want any part of that. Nope. You can go ahead and fight. We're staying out of it. We're done with this. Okay. Another person says, if there's one thing Gen X loves, it's being told who they are and what they should do. Another person says, hilarious notion that Gen X would assist the scolds that told us what to watch, read, and listen to. Blow on the cartridge, boomers. I get that reference. Oh, I get that reference. I love it. Another person says, no one wants to hear exactly why Gen X doesn't give an F. They might have to talk about the impact of a shared childhood and neglect and abuse, targeted structural oppression on us and our mortality rate. It would get awkward really fast. True. That same person adds, the war on drugs mostly took out Gen X. We were sacrificed on a few fronts. Those of us that made it, borderline feral. And some of the boomers circled back to demand we support them while we paid off college debt and raised kids. We're exhausted and most of us won't live to retire. Damn. I feel like Gen X has kind of been forgotten a little bit there. But it seems like, I don't know, a lot of these responses are super based. They've seen some shit and they just want to be left alone. And I respect that. I do respect that. Another person here, last one. Hi, Gen Xer here. Still a little pissed at what Tipper Gore did to my CD covers and how the religious right told parents to boycott Blue Jeans, who supported the Boy Scouts, for hiring gay leaders. Yeah. Man. Gen X based. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.